999ers risk their lives every day keeping us safe.
We do this job to help people.
But all too often, they're abused and attacked.
The vehicle threw me like a rag doll. It should have killed me.
These personal attacks on police, paramedics and firefighters are at an all-time high.
I'll admit I was absolutely terrified.
We don't put on this uniform to be assaulted.
Leaving them traumatised and unable to work.
It felt like I was saying goodbye to my career.
But while the violent criminals responsible are hunted down and brought to justice,
You're under arrest. You do not have to tell anything.
our protectors fight to get well and back on the job.
I was not going to give up. There was no way.
It's took a hell of a lot of hard work to get back to the place I'm just now.
Ready to face the next critical incident. Today, a son lashes out at a police officer as his father is arrested.
What did you say to my dad?
All right. Get away from my colleague.
I wasn't prepared for what was happening next, I don't think, because he started coming at me.
Married paramedics get the emergency call of nightmares when wife Jan hears husband Neil has been seriously assaulted by a patient.
Hearing he'd been knocked unconscious, it was awful. I wouldn't recommend anyone goes through hearing that their husband has been assaulted.
And we're on the road with the specialist team putting their lives in danger every day as they tackle vehicle crime in Manchester.
There's a lot of risk in dealing with cars, and people will try anything to get away.
For 17 years, PC Emma Ajay has been working to keep the streets of Wolverhampton safe.
My role at the moment is response. So we go from job to job to job with blue lights and sirens, and mainly to the immediate calls for service.
Shockingly, she's been attacked on duty more than a few times in her career.
Oh my gosh, last year was the year. I'd been kicked in the chest by a female who we were arresting. She kicked my colleague in the privates. He was worse off than me. Someone twisted my wrist because I was trying to arrest them. I was on my own. Caused sprained my wrist.
But one particular incident in 2017 looms larger than the others.
I was on a night shift, which is 10 in the evening till 7 in the morning. I was single crewed that day.
A call comes in with reports of a disturbance at a residential address.
I offered to attend, but I was supported by a Taser unit of 2 male officers.
When Emma and her colleagues arrive, everything seems to be pretty calm. And the woman living in the house goes off to get her husband.
So we were waiting in the living room, and I actually did not expect it to kick off at that point because it was just chilled. So when her husband came in, he immediately kicked off because he took exception to the fact that there's police in his house. He started calling us names and telling us to leave and things like that.
As the situation quickly spirals out of control, Emma's colleagues move to arrest the man for breach of the peace.
Get hands behind your back. What for?
We felt that if we left the address, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Let's bring to the peace. What for? You don't have to say anything, but you may have defence. You don't mention my question, something you might record.
Tried to make sure that you were okay, and you've decided to kick off. You keep tensing up.
There was a big struggle in the address to try and handcuff this man.
Listen. I don't listen. If you don't put your hands on your back.
All he said.
Stop, mate. I'm telling you now. Calm down. You're in my house. Calm down. Up. In my house. On the sofa. Turn up.
Eventually, we managed to put him face first onto the settee and handcuff him to the rear. So he was kind of under the control then.
This is him playing up.
Calm down. Do not. in my house. Do not in my house.
He hasn't done nothing wrong.
I've done nothing wrong.
Found the
You horrible little...
Can't say that.
You can.
There's a staffy who's trying to let the dog in to come and have a go at us as well.
Put your hand behind your back. Get the dog out. Let the dog
I can't because they'll put him to sleep.
Right.
We've come here to check you're both okay. You've responded like that.
Fine.
There's no need for that.
Responding what?
In an aggressive manner with us.
We managed to get the man to his feet to escort him out of the house. I got a cell van which has got a 2-foot step into the cell at the back. Because he was a big man, he was resistant, aggressive. We couldn't, for the life of us, get him to step in.
Get in the van! Get in the van!
He had stamped on one of my colleagues' feet. His wife came out and their son.
Could you go back in the house, please?
And at this point, his trousers fell down. And the lady was trying to tell the son, look what the police have done to your dad.
He's pulled your trousers down.
No, that happened himself. That happened to himself when he
His
was
son's
with
got
us.
very bad nerves and everything. Look what you've done in front of him.
Mistakenly believing the police have pulled his father's trousers down, the son gets very agitated.
He was like pacing up and down like a chicken, you know. And then he was walking around a parked car, which was next to our van, working himself up. My colleagues were trying to appeal to the man to get him into the back of the van. And the son walked over with a clenched fist and went to strike my colleagues.
Go on. What did you just say to my dad?
All right, right. Get away from my colleague.
Later, as Emma jumps in to help her fellow officers, she becomes the main target.
And I couldn't fight him off, and I was frightened. I was really frightened.
All too often, police trying to help people find they're thanked with violence. In this body-worn footage, the police have been called to deal with a man high on cocaine and alcohol who's threatening to hurt himself. As they arrive, the offender is behind a glass door waving 2 kitchen knives around. The officers first try to get him to calm down.
Keep nice and calm, OK? I'm officer with a taser. What I need you to do is put the knife down for me.
They repeatedly ask him to give up the knives.
Is there anything I can reasonably say or do, OK, that's going to help me and help you to put those knives down?
But he refuses, so the officers decide to take action. They open the door and use their taser to try to bring him under control. But he lashes out with his knives, and the nearest officer is saved only by his stab vest. As they bring the man to the ground, they quickly confiscate the knives and finally get him safely in cuffs. The offender pleaded guilty to attempting to inflict grievous bodily harm and was handed a 4-year prison sentence. While most police officers face danger in the line of duty, there are some teams and units that put themselves in harm's way on a daily basis. This is the Tactical Vehicle Intercept Unit at work in Manchester.
Our intention is to deny criminals the use of the road. So what we do is we have marked and unmarked high-powered vehicles, which enables us to, one, keep up with the people, but more importantly, use tactics to prevent them escaping from us and keeping people safe.
Every day, this team put their lives in serious danger fighting vehicle crime, chasing joyriders and car thieves.
There's a lot of risk in dealing with cars and particularly dealing with stolen cars. People will try anything to get away. It's not just put your foot down and drive as fast as you can. You know, people will try and attack the police, so you always have that in the back of your mind.
The vehicle being used as a weapon it's documented countless times. I think it's a known risk to us as police officers. It's the role you take, isn't it? We know it could happen, and it does happen. We're prepared to do it. It's an occupational hazard, unfortunately.
It's Saturday night, and Sergeant Danny Cabal and his team are getting ready for the night ahead.
Right, fellas, we'll keep it short and sweet because
They've gathered intelligence on stolen vehicles in the area, and they're discussing tactics on how to track down any suspects.
The Audi A1. Are you aware? Just give us a quick rundown on that, mate.
Yeah. A white A1, I believe, around Newton Heath. It's quite possibly one that was nicked earlier in the morning from Radcliffe in a tick-over.
Right.
The owner was defrosting it.
It's a clone, isn't it? We know that.
Yeah.
We know that much.
And there's a grey A1 as well, I think, which he seems to think might be Newton Heath based as well.
Yeah.
Our day shift have identified a couple of cars that inquiries have shown are cloned cars. There's a white Audi A1 and a grey Audi A1. So we're going to go out looking for those two clone cars.
Right, let's go. Let's do it. See you in a bit.
In all honesty, yeah, we go out looking for these Audis and we'll come across something completely different. There's that many stolen cars driving around Manchester at the minute, you know, that we just tend to see them as we drive around.
Armed with a list of suspected stolen vehicles, PC's Ian Burtonshaw and Ian Bruce get on the road.
We always work in twos, so I've worked with PC Burtonshaw for 10 years or so now. We've been partners, you know, for so we spend more time than we do with the wife. But
we work very well together as such. That's why we've carried on working together for as long as we have done. We get some good results.
After 20 years of experience, Ian and his partner have an instinct for spotting cars and their drivers who may be up to no good. Within minutes, the pair get a report of a sighting of a suspected stolen car.
The black Astra, gets you next wall, so plates, no problem.
Marked police cars are also on the vehicle's tail.
Yeah, let's go Astra PMC to Jacob John.
And the driver quickly pulls over.
Hey pal, just flick the engine off, show us the key. Is it just show us the key?
Ian questions the driver and checks out his registration details.
Where's the car registered to?
Walsall.
Walsall?
Yeah.
Right, that's why we've stopped you, because it's obviously out of the area. We've got three lads in the car, yeah.
And satisfied that the vehicle isn't stolen, he sends them on their way. Ian admits they don't always stop the right car.
When we're driving around, we'll see someone going the other way. We might have that same type of model of car that's been stolen in the last week. Yeah, you know, some way we catch up with him and we might see the driver and we're happy, you know, that it's a woman in her 50s and we've checked the car out and it comes back to a woman in her 50s. And I won't say it never happens, but there's not a massive amount of 50-odd-year-old women that steal cars in Manchester.
The search is still on for the stolen cars on their hit list. And it's not long before they spot a car that matches the description of one of them.
Obviously, we can't confirm it is a clone at this moment. We just suspect that for the time being, there's two adult occupants on board the vehicle.
For the moment, Ian is pursuing the car unknown to the driver so that they can gather more information.
At the minute, it's highway code compliant. As I say, that he's just going for an undertake. He's doing about 40 and a 30. It's going to be the next car towards you, Crab, as we're lighting it up now.
It's time to put on the blues to force the suspected stolen car to pull in.
We have lit the vehicle up. It is failing to stop at this time.
But the car doesn't stop. The team lay a stinger on the road to try to bring the car to a halt, but the driver manages to avoid it.
Stinger has been unsuccessful. It is a pursuit situation now, albeit relatively low speeds.
Later, Ian's suspicions are justified.
Turn the engine off! Engine off!
Still to come, Emma's shocked as the son of the man who is being arrested launches a vicious attack.
He started pushing me, punching me, and the next thing I know, he was on top of me.
Feeling any more comfortable now?
And one paramedic bravely puts an assault behind him.
I've done this for 30 years and I love this. I am not stopping this because of one idiot.
Brave cops often put their own lives in danger trying to keep the public safe. In this footage, a speeding driver has refused to stop, and so 2 police officers have given chase. Over 4 miles, he hits speeds of up to 80 miles per hour. He eventually appears to come to a stop, but as the officers go to get out of the car, he reverses at speed and rams into the unmarked police car, setting off the airbags. Despite being blinded by airbag powder, the officers continue the chase on foot. But the criminal driver isn't giving up. He recklessly reverses straight at one of the officers, who is forced to jump out of the way. He flees the scene, but is picked up soon after. This rogue menace was convicted of dangerous driving, having no insurance, and assault. He was jailed for 3 years and ordered to stay off the roads for 5.5 years. Talk to any emergency service worker, and most would tell you that they love their job because they get to help people. And this is certainly true for paramedic Neil Van.
I've been working for the ambulance service now for 30 years. I've worked on cars, I've worked on helicopters, I've done a stint as manager and hire managers, and then my love for treating patients brought me back to wanting to actually be hands-on with patients.
Having dedicated his life to his job, Neil is keen to pass his skills and experience on to the next generation.
So Neil Van was my mentor. He was the guy who basically signed me off to be a paramedic. Although he's quite strict, he's a difficult mentor to please, but he's a very good practitioner. He loves his Eccles cakes, so bribery works very well. I mean, I may have bought him a couple of Eccles cakes so that I could pass my course.
During her training, Vanessa and Neil were often paired on shift together.
The real beauty of this job is you have no idea what you're going to do from the minute you arrive. It can be heart attack, it can be car crash, it can be delivering a baby, it can be anything.
They both share a love for the job, but one shift in 2017 put their dedication to the test.
It was a Sunday night. It was a late shift for me, which is 2:30 in the afternoon until 2:30 in the morning. We got called to the house.
63, yeah. You've now been also assigned to a Cat 1 fitting case in Nuneaton.
We was called out to a young lad who was supposedly having a seizure.
When we arrived, there was an argument going on the front doorstep. They stepped to one side, and both of them indicated where the patient was, so we were quite comfortable that they weren't an issue to us. Whilst we were assessing the patients, the argument came into the house, but we never felt that we were at risk because they were just arguing to each other. They were polite to us, even.
All of a sudden, the mood changed.
The argument was getting more heated and louder. The patient was distressed anyway, so this was making it 10 times more difficult for us to try and just bring the situation down.
Vanessa and Neil tried to move the argument outside.
Now, I previously got up and asked them to get outside, and they had done. So then Neil got up this time.
I went across to the doorway, asked if they wouldn't mind just waiting outside, and I was kind of guiding, would you just step outside for a moment so that we can deal with this? I have no recollection from then on.
Neil was headbutted so hard that it threw him right across the room.
I thought Neil had been pushed. He travelled that far. You couldn't imagine a headbutt would be able to make someone travel like 5 metres. There was no, expectation that guy would do that. He wasn't arguing with Neil. He wasn't showing any signs of violence towards me and Neil.
There was no warning, there was no hint, there was never any aggression towards us, there was never anything verbal towards us, there was no body language. He just headbutted me.
I was just in complete shock. So I stood up, the guys were there and they laughed. and it's disgusting. They laughed because they'd headbutted my crewmate. They ran away. Very cowardly, they ran away. I went over to Neil. I realised Neil was completely unconscious. You and your crewmate, it's like your mate. You know, that person you solely rely on. He watches your back. I watch his. He's knocked out on the floor. What do you do?
Vanessa called for help.
I knew I had to press my emergency button.
One of our crews requested your attendance, and they said it's quite a violent situation going on.
And one paramedic picking up the call had particular cause for concern.
My wife is a paramedic. She was on duty that night, so she could hear Vanessa asking for another crew.
And what we heard at the time was a female voice who sounded petrified. Sounded really worried, and she was shouting out a description of the man that had just assaulted her crewmate. At the time, I didn't know it was Neil, but deep down I did. Deep down I had this gut-wrenching sensation that something was wrong. I rang our control and asked them what had happened, and they'd said that Neil had been assaulted. Hearing he'd been knocked unconscious, it was awful. I wouldn't recommend anyone goes through hearing that their husband has been assaulted when you can actually hear the after effects, and hearing how scared Vanessa was as well. It was just awful. Felt powerless. I couldn't do anything. I asked if I could go to the scene, and the control said no. For my own safety, I couldn't go to the scene. Do I go to hospital? They didn't know whether he was going to hospital. The control didn't know whether he was okay. It's just 30 minutes of not knowing what's going on. Is he going to be okay? I don't know.
Neil had been knocked unconscious, and Vanessa desperately tried to wake him.
I shook him, I shouted at him, and he was unresponsive. And he come round after about 45 seconds.
It was all a blur. Can't recall the actual headbutt. What I can recall is a pain across the face and then waking up. He'd split my lip, hurt my teeth, face was numb, really, and my head was ringing.
Ever the professional, Neil wanted to carry on with his duties, but Vanessa could see that something wasn't right.
He was acting confused. His behaviour was not normal. You don't pick up and put down the same piece of equipment 3 or 4 times and stare at it. He didn't know who I was. He just looked at me looked straight through me.
While waiting for another ambulance to arrive, Vanessa brought Neil outside, and they were both surprised at what they spotted in the distance.
I was stood outside afterwards, and then I saw at the bottom of the road 2 people walk past. And I looked at these people and thought, that looks so like the people that assaulted me.
They were laughing and running at the bottom of the street, crossing over, and we both said, that's the guys.
It was. He'd actually come back for some unknown reason. Morbid curiosity, what do you call it? I don't know, but he came back, and apparently it took 6 police officers to actually get him into the car.
The offender was dealt with swiftly, charged with assault and sentenced to 6 months in prison. He was also told to pay £600 in compensation. An ambulance arrived to take Neil to hospital.
When I first saw Neil at the hospital, he just looked like a broken man. Just seeing somebody who you love has been assaulted and he's not his usual self is heartbreaking. He was confused, kept repeating questions over and over again, kind of devastated that he hadn't done anything wrong. He had no idea why he'd been attacked. He hadn't done anything, and that's what he kept saying all the time. I haven't done anything. I don't know why this guy's done this to me. I was so angry when all he was doing is his job. It's all we do is do our job to try and help people, and to be assaulted like that made me so angry towards the person who did it.
Neil was devastated by the attack and began to seriously question his career choice.
There were thoughts of maybe now's the time to give this all up. 30 years, perhaps it's time to knock this on the head. There were concerns that would I put myself in another situation and have the same, or would I put me and my family through the same thing again?
But Neil's wife was determined that he would get through this and not let the assault hold him back.
During Neil's recovery, at the time at the hospital, I was just like any other relative. I was worried, devastated, felt sick. Afterwards, within a couple of days, it was like, right now, time to get back up now, come on. Took him for a walk with the dogs, had a chat with him, you've got to get back to work, you've got to do this is your career. You can't let one person ruin your career.
And Neil knew that Jan was right. And with her support, after 4 days, he went back to work.
I've got to say that the one thing that's helped me through this really has got to be my wife. She has been amazing. She's a very strong lady. She was there when I needed her to be there to do the sort of there thing, but then she was also there to turn around and go, you need to put this aside, get on your feet and get out there. Can you feel that? Yeah. Does it feel the same as here? Putting my uniform on for the first time to come back, hairs on the back of the neck were stood up, a little bit sweaty. It was difficult. It was worrying. Right, tread at me. But family were there, kind of going, come on, this is what you do.
Brilliant. Tell me your name.
It is what I do. It's what I love. I've loved it for 30 years. I can hand on heart say I love my job, and that overrode it.
You got that other blanket, Mum?
But also a determination that I've done this for 30 years and I love this. I am not stopping this because of one idiot.
Right, we're in, we're on, we're sorted.
In Wolverhampton, PC Emma J has been called to a disturbance and her colleagues have arrested a man for breach of the peace.
Calm down. You're Rick, my house!
But as they try to get him into the police van, his son becomes aggressive.
Hi, can you accept one for a breach of the peace?
The son walked over with a clenched fist and went to strike my colleagues.
Go on. What the did you just say to my dad?
All right, right. Get away from my colleague.
I wasn't prepared for what was happening next, I don't think, because he started coming at me, pushing me, punching me, and I was just kind of going with it and pushing him back until, you know, I could feel him punching me.
Get away from my colleague.
What the?
Get away from my colleague.
Hey, what the?
And I thought I was on my own because they were dealing with the dad, and I thought I need to try and do something to stop him from coming at me some more. So I tried to take him to the floor, which I did, but in doing so, somehow I ended up on the floor as well, and the next thing I know, he was on top of me. I couldn't fight him off, and I was frightened. I was really frightened. He'd got his hand at the back of my head, gripped onto my hair and was smashing my head off the road, and he got his hand around my throat as well. I could hear this screaming, and I didn't realise till afterwards that that was me. One of my colleagues eventually tries to pull him off me, but couldn't because he had held onto me so tightly that he sprayed him with the captor spray that we carry and eventually got him off.
You just sprayed my face. You've just got my son in trouble now. You're under arrest.
I was feeling sore at the back of my head, but because, I don't know, I probably wasn't feeling the entire pain because I was restraining him, there was adrenaline, all that kind of stuff.
What time is this?
I'm not letting him go at all. How dare you attack a female, really?
Call yourself a female? Shut up. You ain't nothing but a dirty... Call yourself a female.
He was only here protecting his dad.
I was asking a question for starters. I was never going to do anything.
My colleagues arrived. Lots of people from everywhere, people I'd never met before, because there'd been a backup shout that I didn't know that there was one.
They know the point now. They've sprayed all his face and everything.
As the offender is arrested, the shock of what's happened hits Emma.
I'm agreeing.
I walked away when someone else had taken over, and I just felt my head. I thought, it feels a bit sore, and then I just suddenly pulled my hair. And I'd got a ball of hair in my hand. And I thought, well, it's evidence. I'll put it in an exhibit bag.
Do you need an ambulance? No. Get yourself checked.
No, I'm all right. I'm fine. Betty, I'm fine. I'm okay.
I was still in shock, but I mainly told my colleagues that I was okay because physically I was okay. I hadn't got bits of me hanging off or anything. I was all in one piece, but emotionally I was a mess.
Yeah. Come with me. Come with me. I'll take you.
I'm okay.
Come on, you can come with me.
I wasn't okay. You can tell in my voice.
Foxtrot 62, Whiskey Victor.
I'm okay, Matt.
You just tell your colleagues because you don't want to cry in front of them.
Yeah, if you're in folk, can you put me committed at the moment? I'm with AJ. She's quite distressed. I'll speak to you in a minute. Just so.
One of my colleagues took me away in his car, took me for coffee, calmed me down.
Just sit yourself in.
I don't need to go. Oh my God.
Later, Emma struggles to come to terms with the aftermath of this horrific attack.
I did start to feel bad about myself. I felt like I wasn't worth it.
It is right onto Oldham Road, right onto Oldham Road.
In Manchester, PCs Ian Bruce and Ian Burtonshaw are part of a specialist unit tackling vehicle crime.
It is failing to stop at this time.
They're pursuing a suspected stolen vehicle after the driver has refused to pull over.
It is a pursuit situation now, albeit relatively low speeds. Vehicle is still Oldham Road outbound.
Eventually, the runaway car comes to a halt.
It's braking now, stand by. They're coming to a stop just past Old Church Street. Turn the engine off! Engine off! Where's your key? Where's the key? Turn it off! Turn the engine off!
What's going on?
Just have the last 6 of the chassis, please.
Ian and his team need to confirm that the car is definitely a stolen vehicle before the suspects can be arrested.
You own this car?
Yeah.
How long you had it for?
It's on false plates, the car, so we're just checking the chassis number, see what it comes back to.
It is a current outstanding stolen from Street East by unknown means.
Yeah, it's a stolen Mercedes, so it's bearing false number plates. It comes back to a couple from out of the Manchester area. I think Sergeant Cabal shouted up then he was actually flagged down by the owner when the car was stolen to report to him that it had been stolen, so he's had previous dealings with the victim of this crime.
Just give your hand, sweetheart. Under arrest.
What for?
It's a stolen vehicle.
No.
It's a stolen vehicle.
Right, can you not just, don't be rough with me, please?
I'll be rough with you, man. I'm just putting handcuffs on you.
At the moment in time, they've both been arrested on suspicion of theft of motor vehicle. They're obviously both in a stolen car. They've both been arrested on suspicion of stealing it.
So she's been arrested because after caution she said that she bought the vehicle off Gumtree a couple of weeks ago, even though she's a passenger, so she's been arrested on suspicion of theft.
Yeah.
The suspects are loaded into the van and taken to the police station. As for the two Ians, it's back on the road.
We've been out for 5 hours now, I think.
It's 3:20 a.m. and they're alerted to another stolen vehicle.
6480, an emergency activation and confirmed that he's been attacked in the vehicle with a knife.
We've just had observations from Lancashire for a Skoda Octavia that's just been stolen at knife point by 3 males who've stolen it from the Rottenstall area, which this is the M66 motorway which goes up into Lancashire. Rottenstall's probably about 10 miles that way, and it was last seen going towards this motorway. So we'll just give it a few minutes here, see if it passes us here.
The team stake out the M66.
It's probably about 7 or 8 minutes travelling time distance from here to where the car's been stolen from. It'd probably be here by now, so we'll probably just give it another couple of minutes. But it's probably unlikely that it's going this way.
But it's too late. The car has already escaped and they have to move on. As their shift comes to an end, Ian's reflecting on the seemingly never-ending task he and his team face.
Manchester's just awash with stolen cars at the minute and cars on false plates. And most shifts we're tending to, get behind a stolen car. Every man and his dog seems to be driving around in stolens at the moment.
Back in Wolverhampton, Emma Ajay has been attacked and had her hair pulled out by the son of a man her colleagues were trying to arrest.
You're under arrest! I hadn't got bits of me hanging off or anything, I was all in one piece. But emotionally, I was a mess.
One of her colleagues has helped her to the safety of a police car, and she is in shock.
I'm fine.
Just sit yourself in there.
I don't need to go. Oh my God.
Do you want a cuppa?
I broke down then because it was the realisation. I can't believe what's just happened.
As well as feeling emotionally shattered, Emma now starts to assess her physical injuries.
I'd got bruises all over. I'd got cuts and bruises to my elbows. I'd got a massive, it's like a fist-shaped bruise here.
But the most upsetting discovery is Emma's hair loss.
I'd got a massive patch of hair that had been ripped out of my head. I got a bald patch and a lumps to the back of my head from where I'd hit the road. It took about 6 months for my hair to grow back because it had been, wrenched out from the root. Had to grow from the root again. It took 6 months.
The offender pleaded guilty to an assault charge and was given a 12-week prison sentence, suspended for 18 months. He also received a community rehabilitation order, a curfew, and was ordered to pay £400 in compensation to Emma.
The fact that he didn't go to prison for what he did that upset me, that made me feel, well, what has someone got to do? What kind of injuries has someone got to inflict before they'll take it seriously? It's just not on. It's not on to assault anybody, but when we're there trying to do our job, people have called us to sort out a problem and then we get battered. It's just wrong.
Emma was off work for 2 weeks. Although the physical wounds healed, the emotional scars would take much longer.
After the sentencing was so disappointing, I did start to feel bad about myself. I felt like I wasn't worth it. And then I started to feel really low. I have suffered with depression in the past. And so at the time, I think I was at a real low. I think it did affect my confidence a little bit. It certainly made me realise that I'm mortal, you know, and when these things do happen.
18 months later, having reflected on her role as a first response officer and the impact it has had on her life, Emma has made a big career decision.
Thinking about going for the promotion exam from constable to sergeant. But I always wanted to challenge myself, so I'd like to get the exam passed, hopefully, and take it from there. I'm not going to be going back to the front line, but I'm going to be having a role somewhere else where I know I can do good.
While studying for her sergeant's exam, Emma will continue to combat crime in a new role in the domestic violence department.
I see the future at work presenting me with new challenges now that I'm changing roles. I'm looking forward to it.
Emma is also cherishing precious moments with her loved ones, especially her 13-year-old daughter.
The horrible things that I've seen and dealt with whilst being on response makes you take stock and appreciate simple things in life, like just sitting by the canal or being with your family. Okay. When I was on shift, I didn't really get to spend good quality time with my daughter. It's just nice to be with her because I felt like I've missed out on a lot of her life by working shifts.